What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of J&D Sports Talk. In this episode, I'm going to be starting a new off-season series. Like I said, this off-season series is going to be what every single NFL team should do in the off-season. I'm going to do every single team. My goal is to finish up this series by free agency or right when free agency starts. Basically, going to be talking about how each team's past season went, what their goal should be going into the offseason, and what moves they can do to get better in the offseason. What they can do in free agency and the draft, and maybe some trades they can make. So yeah, let's get into today's video. And part one of this NFL offseason series is going to be the Carolina Panthers. Like I said, I'm going to do all 32 teams one by one. A video or two every day is my goal. And yeah, so this part is going to be about my favorite team, the Carolina Panthers. Keep pounding. All right, so first off, we're going to talk about how last season went. Panthers, to most people, like the lines and all that, ESPN analysts thought the Panthers were going to win 4 to 6 games from what I typically seen. We won 5, went 5-12. The first part of the season was really bad. We had some really bad losses. Really bad losses week 1 and week 2. Got a good win against the Raiders. Then lost 5 straight games. And then after that, once we got this win over the Saints, we started clicking. Things started clicking. We beat the Saints. We beat the Giants. We almost beat the Chiefs. We should have beat the Bucks. We almost beat the Eagles. The Cowboys was a bad game, but we beat the Cardinals in overtime. Lost to the Bucks, but then we beat the Falcons in our best game of the season in the season finale. So I guess you could say this season was decent. We had the worst defense in NFL history, so that's not good to know. But on the positive side of things, this season looked very lost. Another typical David Tepper season, but things turned around for the better. Took an optimistic leap, and Bryce Young shows that he's going to be our quarterback. Dan Morgan moves worked out for the most part, and Dave Canales, through adversity, was a pretty good coach. So yeah, a lot of optimism for the future, and right now we have our foundation. The Panthers have their foundation. They have their quarterback, they have their coach, and they have their GM. First time in a while they entered an offseason with all of that. And now they just look to build their foundation, add pieces, young pieces, just add talent to the team and overall make the team better in different ways. All right, so now we are going to basically break down the Panthers roster. This should be the easiest roster for me to break down because it's my team. So yeah, there's typically going to be 4 sections to each team. The first section is like an overview of last season, basically what I just said, kind of a recap of what they did. And then I'm going to break down the roster, and I'm going to talk about some free agency and some trades they can make, and then the draft, and basically, ultimately, the goal, like what each team, what boat they're currently in. So, like, are they rebuilding? Are they, looking to get back to the Super Bowl, stuff like that. What the Panthers are right now is a team with a young foundation that's looking to build off that and add talent. That's what Carolina Panthers are right now, and that's what they're going to do this offseason. New era in Carolina. Let's break down the roster. Obviously, Bryce Young had a good year last year for the most part. He started bad, was benched 6 games, and he came back and was the Alabama Bryce that we've all been waiting to see. Last season, he had 15 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, but most of those interceptions were early in the season, and he also ran some touchdowns in. He had 6 rushing touchdowns. It was a good year rushing for him. That was he didn't have any last year, so that's another improvement. Andy Dalton as the backup, we just re-signed him. I'm happy with that. Obviously, he can mentor Bryce. He's a good friend to him and leader. 37 years old, but he's a good guy for the locker room. Then we got Jack Plummer. It'll be his second year this year. Then we got Mr. Chuba Hubbard. Missed the last couple of games of the season, but he had a great year. 1,195 yards, top 10 in rushing, 10 touchdowns. Most of the season he was top 5 in rushing yards, so he would have been there if he didn't get hurt. 25 years old, got his contract this off season or this season. He got his contract, well deserved. Breakout season for Chuba. I actually just bought his jersey, believed in him since day one, and this year showed why he's always been the most underrated running back. Then you got Jonathan Brooks. He sucks to see him tear his ACL in the same right knee. Hopefully he bounces back. I don't think he's going to be available for 90% of next season, but I hope for a speedy recovery. Then you got Miles Sanders. I think we should move on from him. He has like a 3-4 year deal. Not really anything going there. He hasn't been great with us. I think that's a cut candidate. Then you look at this wide receiver room for the Panthers. You got Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, David Moore, Dan Chesina, Devin Tompkins. Those are the 6. Adam Thielen, he's going to stay here. He's a veteran. Jalen Coker, undrafted rookie. He showed a lot of promise last year. He was the best rookie on the team, if I'm being real. And then Xavier Legette started out good, but got a couple of injuries and just didn't look the same player. Hopefully he'll return to that next season, but better. As far as that position, I say we can add a receiver. Some potential players I got. Well, we'll break down the roster first. Hold on. For tight ends, we got Tommy Tremble, Jatavion Sanders, and Ian Thomas. Ian Thomas is a cut candidate. He hasn't done anything in his years here. Jatavion Sanders was a rookie last year. He didn't have that bad of a year. Tommy Tremble, he's been on this team for 4 years, hasn't really done anything. He's a free agent this offseason. I say we give him a cheap deal, 1 or 2 year deal to kind of prove it. Be another time with Jatavion Sanders. Then you got the offensive line, who went from worst 2 years ago to one of the best last year. You got Ike Ekwonu, Damian Lewis, Austin Corbett, Robert Hunt, and Taylor Moton. Taylor Moton has always been the most underrated tackle in the league, in my opinion, besides Laramie Tunzel. He's a great player. Ike Ekwonu hasn't really been that 8th overall pick hype like he was supposed to be, but he hasn't been bad. Last year was a decent year for him. Hopefully he gets better and better. Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt at guard, they were really good last year, both making $100 million combined. They were really good last year, and Cade Mays was mainly the guy at center. He did good last year. Obviously, that interior moved around a little bit with all the injuries. Chandler Savala. But Austin Corbett before he got hurt. But yeah, that offensive line was good last year for the most part. Now you look at the defense. You got Ashawn Robinson, Shai Tuttle, Derek Brown. Derek Brown played 1 game last year, then torn a meniscus in his knee. We do need some defensive line help. Then you got linebackers, DJ Wanham, Shaq Thompson, Jose Jewell. Jose Jewell had a bad year, but I think he can bounce back. Shaq Thompson's a veteran with this team. He's always going to be a Panther. But I would like to add another linebacker to that room. And you got Jadeveon Clowney. He did all right last year. I wouldn't mind getting rid of him, but I feel like we should keep him. Just, why not? And then at corner, we got J.C. Horn and Michael Jackson. I think Michael Jackson, he had a great year. Bring him back in the black and blue. But I think we go and get a better corner for number 2. I think our corner room should look J.C. Horn, corner number 2, Michael Jackson. And at nickelback, you got Chow Smith-Wade. He had a good year last year, the rookie. And then at safety, Jordan Fuller, gone. He was terrible last year. Xavier Woods was all right. I wouldn't mind replacing both of them. Maybe give Xavier Woods a cheap contract. He is 29 years old. Yeah, he didn't do bad last year. But then you got Damani Richardson and Nick Scott behind them. So Damani Richardson didn't do bad at all last year either. We got a lot of young promising players on this team. let's name some here. Obviously, Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard, Leggett, Coker, Jatavion Sanders. Let's see. Charles Smith Way, J.C. Horn, Mike Jackson. Well, he's not really younger. Trevon Wallace. I forgot. He got hurt last year, but he was good before he got hurt. He had a lot of tackles last year. He made some physicality plays. 22 years old, second year. Well, this year will be his second year from Kentucky. He was a good pick. Yeah, so we have a lot of talent on this. A lot of young talent on this team. We got to add more to that. Now let's talk about some free agents we could bring in here. I wrote down a whole paper of free agents. I'm not going to name them all, but I'll go through a good amount of them. So, quarterback, don't really need anything. We got our quarterback. We got our running backs. I would like to see us add a wide receiver to go with Thielen, Leggett, and Coker. And I think that you can target T. Higgins. You can target maybe Marquise Brown from the Chiefs. And maybe you get somebody around 2 or 3. There's Jalen Royals. There's a couple good receivers that would be from that draft. My number one option, though, is T. Higgins. That's who I really want to get on this team. That'd be a great weapon for Bryce. But just add a receiver in one way or another. I think you just kind of need one more to go with, like I said. Let's say T. Higgins. Then you have T. Higgins. You have Adam Thielen. You have Xavier Leggett. You have Coker. That's good right there. Tight ends, maybe you add one more. I think you bring Tommy back on a cheap deal. He wants to be here. He's expressed that before. Bring him back on a cheap deal. If you want to go get a tight end, go get one. I had my eyes on Tyler Conklin, the Jets. If they let him go, he's an underrated player. I think if we let Tommy Tremble go, Tyler Conklin and Jatavion Sanders would be a good duo. I would like that duo. And then meanwhile, for the offensive line, I don't know if you really add anything. Obviously, you sign a couple of interior. But for the most part, starters are there. Taylor Moton, Akeem Ekwonu, Damian Lewis, Robert Hunt. Maybe center is different. But for the most part, it's there. Defense, help. Help on the defense. Let's talk about D-line first. I don't know how to say his name, but Aza Adejuize from the Cowboys. You got Milton Williams from the Eagles. B.J. Hill from the Bengals. Levi Nwuzie, defensive tackle. There's a lot of options on the D-line there. Then you could look at edge rushers. You could look at Chase Young. He's only 25 years old. You could look at a reunion with Hassan Reddick. Josh Sweat from the Eagles. Yeah. And I'm talking about free agency, like I said right now. And also, maybe we can make a trade for a receiver going back to that, too. You never know. But I think one way or another, we got to add another proven star receiver to this team. Like I said, if it's, say, T. Higgins, Adam Thielen, Xavier Leggett, Jalen Coker, very happy with that. So now that I talked about D-line and edge, linebackers, I've thought about bringing in Dre Greenlaw from the Niners, linebacker. Then you got, I'm reading off the list here, bear with me. You got Nick Bolton. That would be huge. If Kansas City lets him leave, he's going to go get a lot of money. Nick Bolton, he's a good linebacker, 25 years old, very underrated in pass coverage. And you also got Zach Bond from the Philadelphia Eagles. If they let him go, which I doubt it, 28 years old, still got some good football left. Then maybe Ernest Jones from the Seahawks, who balled out this year. Yeah, so there's a lot of good options there. I also like Robert Spleen, 28 years old from the Raiders. He's a tackle monster. He has like 100-something tackles. Like, he's up there in the league. He's a very underrated player, in my opinion. And then going back to what I said earlier, cornerback 2. We really need that. We got to have J.C. Horn, cornerback 2, Mike Jackson, Chow, and other players. Cornerback 2, you could be looking at DJ Reed. That's my leading choice, cornerback from the Jets. You can look at Chavarius Ward. It's sad of the stuff he went through in San Fran. Hope he's doing better. He can come to our team. Then you got also 2 underrated players. You got Asante Samuel Jr. from the Chargers, and you got Paulson Adebo from New Orleans. Those are 2 underrated corners. And then I look at safety, and in my mind, we need 1 or 2 more safeties. One player that I really would like is Twel Hufanga from the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe Justin Reed from the Chiefs. Javon Holland from the Dolphins would be a good fit. Karen Bynum from the Vikings. He'd get some celebrations going with Robert Hunt. Trayvon Moehrig from the Raiders. He had a good year last year, and maybe a reunion with Jeremy Chin. Highly doubt that's going to happen, but I would love it. But yeah, that's some free agency talk. A lot of players I just named. But I'm going to pick top 5 free agents I would like to see my team bring in. Number 5 is Twel Hufanga, safety from the San Francisco 49ers. Him and Xavier Woods would be a good duo, hard hitting. Then you got linebacker Zach Bond. If we had him, Shaq Thompson, Jose Jewell, that would be a good fit. Then you got DJ Reed, J.C. Horn, DJ Reed, and Mike Jackson. That would be a good trio. And then you got Nick Bolton, 25 years old. If we don't get Zach Bond, I'd rather have Nick Bolton because of his age and talent. Even though they're both really good. But Nick Bolton is 3 years younger. Him, Shaq Thompson, Jose Jewell would be really nice. And then number 1, I already said it, T. Higgins. That'd be a great addition to our offense. Take that young receiving room up the next level. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about some of our free agents that are coming out of expired contracts. The Carolina Panthers currently have $28.8 million. We have a lot of free agents this year, but a lot of them aren't really key players. Some players I'd like to bring back. Xavier Woods is questionable. Corbett doesn't really want to be here. Andy Dalton already brought back. Dane Johnson we cut. Jordan Fuller I don't want back. Shaq Thompson I would like back on a cheap deal. Even if he's a backup, he's always a Panther. Sam Franklin, special team safety, we'll probably bring him back. Johnny Hecker and Eddie Pinheiro is interesting. If we could find a better kicker, then we'll go get that. Maybe draft one later. And then Johnny Hecker will bring back another year. J.J. Jensen brought back. Ian Thomas, the door is over there. Nick Scott, we can bring back, I guess, for backup. David Moore wasn't bad at receiver. Brady Christensen, young guard from LSU. Tommy Tremble, I already discussed that earlier. Michael Jackson Sr., I discussed that earlier too. 2 cheap deals for Mike Jackson had a really good year last year, and Tommy Tremble has more to prove. And yeah, Raheem Blackshear I'd like to bring back as backup. Cade Mays, left guard, I'd like to bring back. Yeah. So basically those are some of our free agents. A lot of players, but not a lot of key players. But in summary, I'm going to talk about the draft for every team when we get closer to it. You got to see after free agency. But that's going to be it for the Carolina Panthers offseason breakdown. So basically I went over a quick brief of what we did last year. Broke down the roster, talked about some potential free agents. Well, I gave you guys a lot of free agents for my team, but talked about some free agents, maybe a couple of trades we can make, and then we'll talk about the draft when we get closer to the draft. Panthers have a good amount of money, 28.5. That's good. Got to make a little more, I would say. But like I said, my top 5 free agents to bring in: T. Higgins, Nick Bolton, DJ Reed, Zach Bond, and Twel Hufanga. I think those would be good players to the team. Like I said, I'm going to try to do a new team or 2 every day. I'm going to try to finish this NFL offseason series by free agency starts or just right after it starts. And then we'll talk about the draft later as we get closer to it. We're going to talk about free agency a lot. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed part one, team one of the NFL offseason series, the Carolina Panthers. Make sure you come back for your team and subscribe to our channel if you're new. Follow our TikTok and Twitter at JD Sports Talk. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Keep pounding.